A 16-year-old orphan Florida teen may be forced to carry out her pregnancy after a judge ruled she's not mature enough to have an abortion, but apparently mature enough to raise a child. A judge made the ruling despite the teen telling the court, quote, she wasn't ready to have a baby, didn't have a job, and the father of the baby was unable to assist her, according to court records. Under current Florida law, an abortion generally cannot be performed on a minor without the consent of a parent or guardian. Florida Senate Minority Leader Lauren Book has called the ruling unconscionable. She joins me now. Lauren, we appreciate you being in. Senator, we appreciate you being in. Thank you. Can you tell us where the case stands now? The teen is now 10 weeks into the pregnancy, as far as we understand.
So she's actually 11 weeks into the pregnancy. This brave 16-year-old girl did what any young person in the state of Florida would have to do if she did not want to have a parent knowing what was going on, and that is seek a judicial bypass. She had her guardian ad litem with her, and let's be very clear, this is a young girl that is in the foster care system. The state is her parent. And because of the several draconian pieces of legislation that Republicans have put in place year after year after year, this young woman had to go before a judge. They sentenced her, this young girl who's trying to get her GED, not yet ready to have a child, does not have the support system to care for that child. They are sentencing this young girl to having a baby.
You mentioned these.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, you mentioned these laws and you call them, quote, draconian. Now, this case does highlight the complexities of parental consent laws when you have someone who, like a teen in Florida who is parentless or a ward of the state. Florida, one of 6 states that requires parents to be notified. Do you believe these laws can be changed?
We have fought to have, when this law came on the books, we fought about making sure that children that were in the foster care system had a different set of circumstances, a parent that is incarcerated. So they did not necessarily have to go through this difficult system. And let's be very clear, I am in my 30s. I'm a state senator. My office has called every single judicial branch in the state, the clerk's office, to try to understand this process. This is a complex process. This is a difficult process, one that is very hard for even adults to navigate. This young person navigated the system, was able to get it, then was denied. Now, she can try to get a rebuttal. She can try again, but she's 11 weeks pregnant. We have an abortion ban in our state at 15 weeks. And so the time is ticking. And that is what is so terrible and horrific about this ruling and this case.
Florida's abortion ban is now headed to the state Supreme Court. What do you believe will happen there?
Look, I would never think to tell the judicial branch what to do, but we know that we have had Republican control and rule for quite some time in our state, 20 plus years. And we've had very conservative justices placed on the courts. And so we're very concerned about what this means for a women's right to choose and women in the state of Florida.
I want to pivot just a little bit here. And ask you about this. A Florida judge temporarily blocking Governor DeSantis' Stop Woke Act. If somebody out there watching is not familiar, it aims to restrict conversations about race in schools. The judge ruled that it violates the First Amendment. The judge even compared it to the upside down world in Stranger Things, if you're familiar with the show. Do you think the lawyers will be able to permanently overturn this law?
Look, again, we have a very, very conservative court. But let's be also, very honest about this discussion and debate. My caucus and I fought very hard when this bill came before the legislature. We talked about its unconstitutionality, but the governor and the Republicans decided it didn't matter, that this talking point was too important for them. And so what did they do? They pushed forward with a piece of legislation they knew was unconstitutional, that the state and taxpayers now have to pay to litigate, even though we know that is completely and totally unconstitutional, not to mention the fact that those things aren't even being taught in schools throughout the state.
State Senator, I want to go back to that 16-year-old girl really quick. Is there, with the timeline that you've laid out, currently her being 11 weeks pregnant and that ban locking into place at 15 weeks, is there any option for her? Does she travel out of state? Is there anything, or is that just it?
Unfortunately, being a young girl in the foster care system, she would have to get permission from the state to leave the state. So yes, she could go to North Carolina, which is the closest state that doesn't have the same restrictions that we do. But she would have to get permission from the state. And knowing where we come from, knowing the state and the conservative entities surrounding her, her choices are very, very limited.